I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Hey, Caroline, how's it going today?
It's going well, Bryce. We're recording this a little bit earlier than usual. I'm going to be away for a while. So a recent event that has happened just to our recording, but it'll be a bit longer in the future, is the recent death of Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, I thought of you when I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, this might be our in to do the Murder, She Wrote episode, which I know you've been prepping for.
My whole life, yeah.
Yes, but no, that was sad. That was sad news, and it's been really interesting reading a little bit more about her life here over the last week or so.
Yeah, she had a sad but a life well remembered, both of her work on and off stage, on and off screen, Murder, She Wrote, of course, but also movies like The Manchurian Candidate, Gaslight, and for maybe my generation, Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yes, definitely. So, it's interesting to talk about Murder, She Wrote because Murder, She Wrote had like a really iconic theme music, I thought.
Yeah.
And is somebody who I can honestly say, and Caroline, this is going to shock you, I've never once watched a full episode of Murder, She Wrote.
I have some suggestions. I got
okay,
you.
Good.
I got you. When we do our episode, I got you.
Okay, good. But yeah, they have. But it's funny, as somebody who's never watched watched a full episode, I know the music. Like, as soon as you mention, Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury, I'm already thinking of that music.
The plinky piano that you just want to throw on a cable knit sweater, bike ride around Maine, and solve some murders.
Absolutely, go through some covered bridges, stuff like that. So, we thought today, this has been a topic that we've talked about doing actually for a while, and I'm so glad.
In the second or third episode, you were declaring your love.
I was, yeah. If you go back and listen, I'm talking about the theme music from Barney Miller, how much of a fan I am of it. So today, of course, we're talking all about TV theme music. I think this is going to be such a fun episode, and we've got a couple of great returning guests today joining us to chat all about TV theme songs, and they're going to share their picks with us. So first, I want to welcome back to the show Ashley Dotto. She's a library services coordinator from our Strathcona branch. This is actually your third time on the show. You were last on way back in May of last year, 2021, our pop culture crafting episode. Welcome back to the show, and how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. And also joining us today, it's been a while since this guest has also been on, June 2021. I can't believe it's been that long. And making her third appearance. She's a library assistant at our Shelley Milner Children's Library and our awesome EPL to go literacy vans, Anna Wallace. Anna, you're last on our sports movies episode. How's it going today?
Good. Did you miss me, Bryce?
Absolutely.
Now, Anna, you have a new job.
I do.
Since we talked with you last.
I do. I'm moving up, sideways, transitional. I don't know. Same pay scale, but different department. I'm on the EPL to go literacy vans. We throw everything that you need or could use in a library, and we put it in a giant van and drive it all around the city of Edmonton, hitting all those communities that just don't have a library close. So if you see the giant black vans that say EPL to go, you might see my face. But we have a really great team.
I imagine things are starting to wind down for you.
Not at all. We go all year long. Right now we're slated for, I think, 32 or 33 visits per week, with 4 vans in rotation. So we go all year long. We're in a different type of schedule right now because the summer is like a blitz. And parks every day, 2 parks every day. We call it like EPL camping. Because we have to roll our RV into a park, set up everything, hang out for 2 hours, pack it up, and then roll to a different park for the afternoon. So some like the fall, winter, spring schedule is a lot more like indoor programming, but we have just as many visits and just as many staff rolling out and doing all the cool things. So we're always going. Lit Van's always rolling.
Yeah, we've had actually quite a few guests recently from the Lit Vans. So in addition to doing awesome work with kind of underserved communities and reaching out to them, your whole team, awesome guests on Overdue Finds. So you're always welcome.
And your team member, Maria, part of the Overdue Finds family.
Integral part, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love Maria.
So before we get talking about our favorite TV theme songs, let's go over our recent Overdue Finds picks. Anna, I'm going to go alphabetically by first name and start with you today. What have you been enjoying lately?
Well, we are in the midst of spooky season when we are filming this, and my husband and I, for the month of October, we'll watch one horror movie a day. We'll try to get to 31 for the whole month. We have kids, so sometimes it's a little, but we've been doing good. We've got 16 movies watched already here on October 17th, and my favorite so far is called Hellbender. It's from 2022. It was a Shudder original done by the self-proclaimed Addams family. So it's a wife, husband and daughter team, and they write and direct and produce these movies by them, like kind of as like a family core. And Hellbender is forest witches in like this psychedelic, very like earthy blood magic movie that explores the kind of relationship between mothers and daughters and coming into your own and being these badass women. It's like such a good movie, and it's a tight 90 minutes too, which is like my favorite for horror movies. I really don't feel like horror movies need to go to that 2-hour length, but that's just me. So that's and you can find it in the EPL catalog. You can borrow it as a DVD. It was super, super cool and highly recommended.
I find it gets a bit hard to sustain that level of tension, I guess, for lack of a better term, once the movie starts to get a bit longer.
Yeah. I love the mythology behind a lot of horror movies. Like the one you're talking about sounds amazing. I don't like being scared though. So I can handle like slasher flicks and that kind of thing, but the more like tense situations, I
think
handle.
Hellbender, I didn't find it too like spooky. Like there's some like scary sequences, but it was almost like, I don't know, it tapped into this like feminine rage that I just have in my DNA. So, and the witches get their power through fear, which I thought was such a cool concept to explore, that like you're more powerful the more people are afraid of you. Which, I mean, I could talk about this movie for days and days on end and how it relates to real world stuff and all that stuff. But I don't know, you want to watch it, Ashley? And then we could have our own podcast about it.
We totally could, yeah.
Ashley, what have you been enjoying recently?
Well, on the other end of the Halloween scale, last weekend I binged the Halloween Town quartet of movies, which, by the way, the fourth one's totally not worth it. But this was something that a friend introduced me to many years ago. I didn't grow up with it like a lot of people did. It's a Disney movie about a preteen girl who discovers that she's a witch and that her mother has been hiding this from her the whole time. And her grandmother lives in Halloween Town, which is where all the spooky Halloween people live, but she's never been told about it. Their grandmother just comes once a year to visit them on Halloween. And the grandmother's played by Debbie Reynolds, and she's fantastic in it. But there's 4 of them, and like I said, the 4th one felt like an afterthought, but they're super fun. I know my friend just introduced her 5-year-old to them, and she feels like she's finally old enough to kind of get the goofiness of it. But yeah, they're super fun. They're on Disney Plus, and actually I think we've got them in the catalog as well, because for a while that's how we were watching it every year, was I would take it out from the library and bring it over. So
yeah, does the movie, in the mythology of the movie, does it explain why the grandmother leaves Halloween Town on Halloween? I would think that would be the place to be on Halloween.
it is the only day that well, Halloween Town's normal is the point of the movie, and it's the only day that they can leave. So 1,000 years ago or so, because they were so persecuted by humans, they used to live on Earth, and then so they separated themselves out to protect themselves. And so now they live in Halloween Town, which is super normal, except for stuff is happening. It's Halloween and something's happening. People are disappearing, and they're going strange before they disappear.
So yeah, there definitely sounds like there's a lot happening.
And it's very typical 90s Disney movie. Probably made for TV Disney movie.
Yeah, I think it was a Disney Channel original movie.
I kind of, on our last episode, we were talking all about Hocus Pocus and, of course, some of our favorite spooky movies. And I kind of feel like we dropped the ball on that one and totally missed Halloween Town, Caroline.
I am a similar age to Ashley and agree with her that it wasn't really one that I would say we had, just slightly younger than us, that just really embraced this Halloween Town. I think some of like the fun, the campiness, Debbie Reynolds, I think that's kind of what it has going.
Camp is definitely part of it. A lot of bad costumes, even for the time. People walking around wearing pumpkin heads.
That sounds fun. Caroline, so we've got 2 spooky picks. We are recording, by the way, we of course are recording this before Halloween. So Caroline, do you yourself have a spooky recommendation this week?
Not really, but kind of. And I have a recommendation that comes not from me, but from past guest on the show, Angelica Thompson. And I have one of her Overdue finds that she wanted people to know about. So it's called The Violence by Delilah Dawson. So I think I'm off to a pretty good start thematically on this. So this is now Angelica speaking. Call me twisted, but I am absolutely loving any novels that take on what we're learning in this pandemic and extrapolate what the next one might be like. This is Caroline breaking in to Angelica's summary. I read that and I had to sit with that for a while because that is a hard thought, thinking about that. So if you need to pause the podcast and sit with that for a while, I get it. Okay, this is Angelica again. This is the story of a woman who identifies an opportunity to escape domestic abuse when a terrifying illness that suddenly turns people into killing machines sweeps the world. I thought the layers of the story around intergenerational trauma, motherhood, and society were fascinating and made this hard to put down. End of Angelica's description. So we have The Violence at EPL as a book, ebook, and audiobook. So if you want to kind of process maybe some of the last few years through fiction, check out The Violence by Delilah Dawson.
That sounds really good, actually. And it's a title I've heard of, but I didn't really know too much about it.
Yeah, Angelica works on one of the kind of teams of people here. We talked earlier about like our family members and different team members, and one of the things she works on is kind of the collection promotion team. We call it Great Stuff at EPL, and so the Great Stuff team is going to be providing us, you and me, Bryce, with occasional items that maybe we haven't discovered, but they think people might enjoy. So I was really happy and unsettled to get this from Angelica.
Yeah, this also takes a little bit of pressure off us because sometimes it's tough to if we have like multiple recordings in a week, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? So yeah. I'm so happy that, they're able to provide us with some picks here coming up.
So I hope that wasn't what I just snagged that one. I didn't even tell you I was using it. So hopefully you have a different title to talk about.
Yeah. So, I guess this kind of fits in with the theme of, I guess kind of spooky, but not really. Well, yeah, that is, I guess. So a lot of people, of course, have been talking about the Netflix series Dahmer. And, it's a controversial series and everything. And, obviously, like it or not, it's a case that fascinates a lot of people. So if you're one of those people who enjoyed the series and maybe want to learn a little bit more about the infamous killer, I recommend checking out the graphic novel My Friend Dahmer, which is from cartoonist Durf Backdurf. This is a title I've mentioned briefly on the show before, but it's never really been like an Overdue Finds pick of mine. I thought this was a perfect time to kind of bring it back. So what's interesting about this book is that so Durf Backdurf actually went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer and was kind of acquaintances / friends with him kind of during their final year of high school. So this is something that, for those people like myself who've watched the Netflix series, you do get to see a little bit of this obviously in the Netflix show, but this title just focuses on those high school years. This is a fascinating read. It gives you some insight into one of history's most infamous figures. And for those of you who really, don't want to get gory details, this one doesn't have that. This doesn't go into any of the horrific details about his actual crimes. And so after you read the graphic novel, you can also check out the movie of the same name that came out just a few years ago. And the movie's actually pretty good too, as far as like book to movie adaptations go. This one's actually really good, so it's a good kind of double header. But if you do only choose one, I definitely recommend checking out the graphic novel. The graphic novel is actually, it's probably around 200 pages, but this is one that I couldn't get put down. I think I remember reading it within maybe one night or a couple nights or something like that. So My Friend Dahmer, go check it out if you haven't already.
This kind of keeps up our recent tradition of taking what's on Netflix and then encouraging people to read or watch something else that they can get from the library.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's been a few years since I've read the graphic novel, but obviously with it being in the news, I'm like, go check this one out. All right, so let's get chatting all about our favorite TV theme songs. I'm so excited to get everyone's picks here today. So before we get talking about our favorites, I guess, Ashley, I'm going to start with you. What qualities do you think a good TV theme song has? So like, what makes a good TV theme song?
For me, it's the earworm. So the thing I can listen to over and over and over again, or even if I listen to it once, it's stuck in my head for the next week. And you don't get sick of it, right? So it's so important with binging now too. Like if I'm just binge watching a show and I'm doing other stuff at the same time, I don't want to have to go in and skip the theme to take the time to do that. So if I can just let it roll through and not be annoyed that it's playing, then it's a good theme song.
I definitely think I had catchy in my notes here, and that's a big part of it for me, I think. Anna, how about you?
I love when they set a mood, right? Like you hear those first few strings or first few notes and you're like, okay, I'm down for, like the sweeping orchestra comes through and I'm like, okay, we're going to be talking 20 minutes about someone's like historical background and who married who and all this stuff. Or like the spooky strings. Like everybody remembers the X-Files theme song. You were scared before the Monster of the Week episode even started, right? So I love those that kind of like set the tone of like what the show's gonna be. And even like the comedies you remember from the 70s and stuff, they were setting the tone from the theme song before they even went into the show. When
you mentioned just kind of like the X-Files and, the music and sets the tone and it's all scary. I mean, Unsolved Mysteries, like, oh my God, that's like the scariest theme music of all time. I don't care how old you are. If you grew up in the 80s, 90s, like that song creeped you out at one point. Even if you were an adult during that time, that music will scare anybody. But yeah, I agree. Like, is it catchy? Does it capture the essence of the show? And sometimes, can this song be released as a single? And we have seen that a few times. Like I remember in the mid-90s, the theme song from Friends, I think, was one of the top songs in North America. So, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I think they're when you start thinking of theme songs, you can start breaking them into different categories. One of my favorite theme song genres is the explain the premise of the show in the theme song genre. Maybe gone a little bit out of fashion now, but we'll get there. We'll talk about it. Examples of this, maybe the most famous ones, Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, set up the premise for the show. Do you have any of these type of songs that stand out for you? Ashley, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I'd say every kid show when I was younger had that going on. So you think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which tells you exactly how they got their powers, what they do, that they like pizza.
The key characteristics of each turtle.
Who each character was. Yeah.
Michelangelo's a party dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're identifying with the turtles even before the show starts. You're
totally.
like, oh, I'm totally a Leonardo.
Yeah. And then like Sailor Moon, Gem. Gem is one of the ultimate earworm kids shows from my day. I had it on a tape that I got with a Gem doll and listened to it over and over again. Like I could probably sing the words to even some of the ancillary songs on the show that just happened to be on this tape because I listened to it so much.
Yeah, I agree. Gem, we have some home video footage of myself and my sister, and we're in our kitchen, and we're supposed to be dancing nicely for the video camera, because this is what you did in the 80s. And at one point, I kind of like push her a little, and she falls down, and I just keep dancing. And I was watching this as an adult, and I watch it, and I'm like, hang on, I'm doing choreography from the Gem opening theme song on this. So I could see that influence in Little Caroline.
The visuals were so important too. And I'd say they still are on a theme song. And I know I always, when I think of the song itself, I can see the visuals that go along with it in my head. But I think especially when you're a kid, you're absorbing every piece of it.
Caroline, it sounds like you may have been maybe a member of the Misfits then, if you're talking about Gem and you're pushing your sister out of the way.
Well, as they said, their songs were better.
Yeah.
Stars have to shine, Bryce. Sometimes you just gotta toss the garbage to the side.
And keep dancing. Not miss a beat. That's the best, my favorite part. Anna, do you have any favorite premise theme songs?
I do. I love all of these that you guys are mentioning. I do love the atmospheric ones. I also love the ones that are just so ridiculous that just like they just set you up that like you think you're gonna watch a normal show, but wait a minute, like the theme song was like super weird. So like, what am I getting myself into? For example, like Oz. Do you guys remember how Oz starts? It's literally a man into a microphone. And then it has this like really, really deep bass line that just like gets, and then he keeps shouting like just all the way through, and you're like, okay, I thought this was like a prison drama, and then you start watching Oz, and it's this sweeping soap opera of men interacting with each other, and like I love Oz. I could go off about Oz being one of my favorite shows of all time, but their theme song really like you can't get it out of your head. I mean, it's funny because I was going to go on a big rant about Sailor Moon, so I'm glad you brought it up. Because, I mean, you're right. You watch these theme songs as a kid, you get the song stuck in your head, and then you're almost like, you're dancing in the kitchen. I mean, I can't believe you got video recorded. I had to do it in my room with the door closed, where you're pretending to be these characters because they just, like, feel so formative. Like, oh my God, girls on TV doing things I want to do. But a genre of TV theme that people know about because they become obsessed with, but maybe isn't part of like the mainstream culture, is anime opening theme songs and closing theme
Totally.
songs.
They have the best.
They are the best.
Because they actually put real time into it.
Oh my God,
yeah.
they're bops. Like, you want to get pumped up, you find yourself like a Shogo romance theme opening, and you're listening to it 6-7 years later after the show's already canceled, because it is. And they get like their J-pop stars to be making these songs for them, and they release them, and you can get them.
And often the voice actors too. And you're like, wow, you can actually sing, and you're really good.
Oh, they're so good. And
I for sure have a tape that a friend burned. I can't remember a CD or a tape, but a friend made me a tape of Japanese anime theme songs, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I find them on Spotify all the time. You can find like anime playlists, and they're all bops. They're so good.
Yeah.
I have no idea what anyone's saying, and I try really hard to sing along. I do not know Japanese, but occasionally I'll get a couple consonant sounds in the right spot.
Well, and the Japanese version of the Sailor Moon theme song is about 1,000,000 times better than the English version, because the English version is, I mean, I love it because
we love it. Ashley, we could probably
kid.
sing it right now.
For sure. I won't. I for sure could sing it right now, but the Japanese version is about 1,000,000 times better. So
that brings up another good point, which is that I personally have a no singing on the podcast rule for myself. I'm not policing anyone else's singing. Bryce has done it. But for me, I'm just like, no, that's too far. And I am really worried that this is going to be the episode that breaks me, because some of these, you just can't help but sing along to it. Bryce, do you have any explain the premise theme songs that you particularly like?
Yeah, so we just actually brought up this show a few episodes ago. The Jetsons theme music is classic. Like, when you look up like a list on Google, favorite, top TV theme songs of all time, the Jetsons comes up, and it's a perfect example of like, meet George Jetson. His daughter Judy, his son Elroy, his wife Jane, his wife. As she like flies down into the shopping center, you get to meet the whole family in the theme music. It's catchy. You get the idea of the show. So yeah, Jetsons theme music, or the Jetsons theme song is a perfect example of that. Another one too. It's a show that we don't really. I know for a fact we don't have it in our collection, but this was a show that young Bryce was obsessed with as a kid, and that's the Dukes of Hazzard. So the theme music, Good Old Boys, sung by country icon Waylon Jennings. That's also an awesome song. Even if like you just throw it on while you're driving around, and you'll feel like kind of going over, getting into a chase with local sheriffs on backcountry roads, and jumping over old cars with it. But that's another theme song too that pretty much describes really the premise of the series in general, and you get to meet all of the characters during the opening credits. And this one, I have a feeling, Caroline, I hope I'm not stealing this one from you, but I really think Come and Knock on Our Door, the theme song from Three's Company, to kind of, it's not as good as, say, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that describes, like, here are the characters and here's a party dude, but just the theme with, Come and Knock on Our Door, We've Been Waiting for You. You get kind of, rough idea of the show itself. So here's actually one thing I did find out about the theme music I thought was really interesting. The theme music that the opening theme that you hear on Three's Company, it's performed by Julie Rinker and Ray Charles. Now, not the Ray Charles that you think of, like that Jamie Foxx played, like the legendary pianist and singer, but
who sang the opening to Designing Women. Georgia on My Mind.
I didn't know that.
That is the Ray Charles.
But this Ray Charles, it's actually the leader of the Ray Charles Singers, and they actually were a group who sang backup on many TV shows and albums.
I feel like if we had more time with this topic, maybe in the future, we really could break down theme songs into a whole bunch of genres and subgenres, because I agree with you on Three's Company, and for me, it gets in that area of like, it's kind of pointing to the premise of the show, but like you say, it's not explaining like, here's Jack, here's Chrissy, and or like, there wasn't any place to live, so now we live together, like that type of thing, where that's more like, the Beverly Hillbillies lays out exactly how they became millionaires. We all know how Will Smith's life got turned upside down, because that was told to us each week. But there's one that I'm going to save and talk about later. It was showing up on these lists of premise theme songs, and I was like, I don't think of it like that. And then I realized it actually does have some key elements, but I'm like, I'm going to keep it separate for me. For me, I think, sadly, not a show we have in the collection, but The Nanny. The lady in red when everyone else is wearing tan. It tells the whole story of how this flashy girl from Flushing became the nanny named Fran. And because you watch it and you think, how did this happen? All you have to do is watch the opening credits. So that's a favorite from me for sure.
That's interesting because, like, you're totally right. It's something with like The Nanny or the Beverly Hillbillies. Like, you're not watching necessarily like a David Lynch movie, so it's not really confusing. But at the same time, if you're not familiar with those shows, you can pretty much, you turn it on, hear the awesome theme music. Okay, this is the premise of the show. Let's enjoy it.
And I think that people didn't watch TV the way we do now, right? Like, it's not like both in the sense of like binge watching. When if there's 30 seconds between episodes, you're not going to forget the premise of the show. But and then I think too, we have more of like a Hollywood culture. There's, these magazines, internet stories, all of this floating around. In the 50s, 60s, even 70s, there needed to be that reminder, like, what's the Patty Duke show about? Oh, they're cousins, identical cousins. That's what's going on here. I get it. I'm sitting down ready to watch and really into it.
Well, and a lot of them state like origins. And when you think about it, it's mostly sitcoms and kids shows, which are very, for the most part, at least they used to be, episodic, and they're only half an hour or less, and they don't have time to go back and tell you how this whole thing started. So if it's right there in the theme song, done. And then you can just enjoy the show. And if you're watching week to week, you're not binging, so you don't have recent, and you don't have the internet to look up how it started.
I was thinking of some kind of like modern versions of that, and I know kids shows still do it. Like, you think of the SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, they're telling you exactly what's happening in this delightful piratey round.
Obviously, we've got the Brady Bunch and these themes that do maybe over-explain things in the opening. Some others, though, don't use any words at all, or sometimes don't even need to use any words at all. Anna, do you have any favorite instrumental theme songs?
Of course I do, Bryce. I love Oz. A lot of the HBO shows actually have really great instrumentals, like Sopranos is incredible. Game of Thrones has a really great instrumental. But like, when I think of like formative for me, like the Simpsons theme song, I almost feel like Simpsons doesn't get its credit because it's still going. So people think like, oh, like, why are we talking about it as something that's like so influential in the cultural zeitgeist and for writing TV and for sitcoms in general? But it was, because it is, if you go back to those first 10 years, like, that's some of the best TV writing that was happening at the time. So Simpsons is a great instrumental. I think of a lot of like, when you're home from school because you're sick and you're watching your mom's favorite like soap operas. Like, I know Days of Our Lives has a little bit of talking in it, but it does have that like sweeping sands of time moment. And they all have those, like, when you hear it, you're like, ooh, who's going to get betrayed today? Or who's going to be, like, are they going to wake up from their coma? It just kind of instills that, like, super fun, dramatic, the instrumentals do a really great job at setting the tone. So you kind of have to watch each episode because you're not getting the like, I'm going to tell you what's going on at the beginning. But it does feel like a bigger investment. So maybe that's why it's so sweeping. I can just like see the conductor in the studio in a lot of them. They're so good.
Ashley, how about you?
I am totally obsessed with the Mandalorian's theme. And I know it comes at the end, but it really sets the mood. It propels you into the next episode if you're binging the episodes. And it gives that mood and kind of puts the tone of like the Western on it. Because you think of this sweeping space odyssey that Star Wars is, but it really grounds you on this particular show, and it tells you it's more than one thing, because the theme song is very Western, but it's also classical, and it's really got an adventure sound to it. And oh god, I love it so much. You can on Hoopla you can get the soundtrack to every episode of The Mandalorian, and so I checked out the first one just to be able to listen to the theme over and over and over again. But also it kind of really sends home the idea that they spent a lot of time, had a real orchestra on the whole soundtrack. And the themes that come up in the main theme appear throughout the show. And it kind of binds it all together really well.
By the way, I think The Mandalorian is like one of the best Star Wars like things, like movies, TV shows. Like The Mandalorian is up there with like the original Star Wars movie and Empire Strikes Back. But one thing that's really interesting about the series, though, I find, you know, some of these TV shows that we've talked about already, it's like, oh yeah, like you won't skip over maybe the opening credits because you really like the theme song. Mandalorian's almost like the opposite, because it's like I will watch the end credits. Most end credits, you're just like, whatever, I'm moving on to the next episode. But with the Mandalorian, we get that awesome theme music, and then of course we also get like the beautiful storyboard art from that episode, which I always, you know, love with The Mandalorian. And you're not, you know, hitting that button to skip to the next episode. You want to, you know, look at all these beautiful beautiful artwork.
A lot of the Disney Plus original shows kind of have that. Like all the Marvel shows have the end themes. Yeah. And then the Marvel ones, it's usually a different song in each credit sequence at the end, but they're always really good and really fit with the show.
Caroline, how about you? I bet you've got some bangers here.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that sums up the late 80s, early 90s, as well as the theme to Beverly Hills 90210. Give me some electric guitar, some saxophone, and I will be like frolicking on the beach with my sunglasses, trying to decide between Brandon and Dylan.
Is there even a choice, Caroline? Don't
No.
we stay on one side of the team, or do we try and get both at the same time?
Yeah. That was I mean, it's a long theme song, so by the time it's over, I'm like, yeah, no, it's Dylan.
Oh, okay,
sorry.
we got it.
So, yeah, I think that's an interesting one, because the show lasted for 10 seasons and kept the theme song the whole time. So we've gone from this like very timely, of the moment 1990 sound to a 2000 sound, but by that time it's so associated with the show that still really makes sense for it. Also from the early 90s, Twin Peaks. I've talked in the past about my love of the relationship that David Lynch and Mark Frost have with the music of Twin Peaks, and that is from the jump with the theme song there. And then my Star Trek is Star Trek The Next Generation, but Star Trek Deep Space Nine probably has my favorite of the Star Trek openings. And I can't even really put my finger on why. It has a little hauntingness that the adventure qualities of the original and the Next Generation have, that kind of like epic jauntiness, and Deep Space Nine is a little sadder almost, and I guess that speaks to me. That appeals. And then one that I listened to this because for this show, because so many people were mentioning it. I don't actually watch the show. Does anyone watch Succession? A lot of shaking heads here. So no Succession fans on this podcast, but it came up a lot when I was talking with other people about the show. So yeah, I mean, it's good. It's very much in that HBO vein of really well orchestrated theme music, and I enjoyed listening to it, and hopefully will one day check out the show.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about that show. That's on my list of about 1,000 other TV shows I need to eventually check out.
I know, but the Jetsons aren't going to watch themselves.
No, I gotta rewatch the Jetsons for like the 100th time. So,
Bryce, your instrumental wordless theme music.
Yeah, so in the 80s, we had this collection of awesome, like, action/drama series, and most of them all had like incredible instrumental scores. So, when you think of the 80s, the first song that comes to my mind is the theme music from Miami Vice by Van Jammer. This is such an iconic theme song that, while it does sound incredibly 80s, I think it holds up. Like, you could be driving around in any car and you're going to feel like you're in like 1980s Miami while listening to it. Another song too like that, you bring in all the synthesizers, is the awesome Knight Rider theme music. This is another one too where I have it on like a Spotify playlist, and it comes on and I feel like I'm driving around in kit and going on awesome adventures. And the Magnum PI theme music as well. I know it's there's a kind of a new series. I haven't watched it, but check out the opening credits for Magnum PI. And this is a fun show, and the theme song absolutely rocks. And another one too that's actually, it's funny because I teased it during our last episode, and it was brought up on a recent episode of Rick and Morty, and that's the theme music from Taxi. So it's actually the theme music from Taxi. That song is actually called Angela, and it's by Bob James. And that's another song where you put it on and you automatically think of, even if you've really never maybe watched the show before, maybe you see the image of the taxi going across the Brooklyn Bridge, or I've always wanted to maybe time it out while I'm driving around and maybe have it have that song being played while I drive across maybe the high level bridge. I'm gonna have to maybe work on that, because I think that would be a really fun thing to do.
Sounds like a lot of your picks involve driving.
I think so. There's something about kind of throwing on some TV theme music and driving around. I haven't done that with the awesome Barney Miller theme yet, but I don't know. There's something about having like good music on while you're driving.
I mean, it's only appropriate if you're cosplaying as Tom Selleck, Bryce. You have to have the mustache too. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, I don't have the Hawaiian shirt, but or the Detroit Tigers hat, but that's something I could easily put together. And a recent one, we've been talking about a lot of themes from like the 80s and 90s or even earlier. A recent show too that kind of at the beginning wasn't a huge hit, but turned into just an iconic show, and that's the theme music from The Office. And as the theme music opens up, we get a shot of Scranton and the piano playing and everything, and I think that music itself has become pretty iconic anyway. Anna, when I mentioned that you kind of like, are you not an Office fan?
God, no. I'm so tired of hearing about it, you guys. I get it.
Really?
I get it. People think it's funny, and that's fine. It's just not my tempo.
That's all right.
My tempo. But I'm like weird. If everybody like gets on a bandwagon, and I maybe was on the bandwagon, then I look around and go, it's crowded in here, and I get off.
You're a TV hipster, I get it.
Yes.
Speaking of personal history and preferences, I think we've talked a lot about different areas. Let's bring this all together now. What are some of your all-time favorite theme songs? What's on your top list? Ashley, I'll start with you.
So it took me a while to narrow it down to 5, and the 5 that ended up are a little bit of recency bias. Particularly, so one of my favorites right now is What We Do in the Shadows, because it's got a real like rockabilly thing going on, but kind of fits with the old fashioned in a new era place. So I've been watching that recently again, and that's why it's kind of stuck in my head. Another one is the theme to Girls 5 Eva. Are you guys familiar with that show?
I know of it. I haven't watched it,
Oh
but
my
I think I
God.
would love it.
That's definitely one that gets stuck in my head for like a week afterwards. So Girls 5 Ever is a sitcom about a 90s girl band, kind of one-hit wonder, who broke up for a number of reasons, including one of their main people died in a tragic infinity pool accident. And now they've one of their one-hit wonder single got sampled by a rapper, and now they're trying to make it again. Anyway, it's very funny. The songs are great. They're ridiculous, but they're also like really well done. And the theme song is no different. Uses a lot of puns on numbers, and yeah, it's super fun. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is fantastic. And actually, one of my coworkers has been watching it on their phone at lunch, and I can't hear anything else because they keep the volume down low, but you can tell when the theme song comes on because it's just ba-da-da-da-da. That's fantastic. The Mandalorian's definitely in one of my top 5. And the last one I picked is from an anime called Beck. It's based on a manga, and it's about a group of like a rock band, a high school rock band who are trying to make it. Has really great soundtrack, but the theme song is just super catchy. I highly recommend that you look it up.
Nice, some good choices there. Anna, how about you?
I do. So something we didn't mention, which I think has one of the best theme songs of all time, is the 1980s cartoon for X-Men.
90s?
Was
90s.
it 90s? It was 90s, yeah.
So good.
You don't need words.
But you put words to it.
Right? Like they're just
or at least
like
we did.
Flying.
Like we added it, describing what was happening in the, it was great.
Did anybody see Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange movie? The Multiverse of Madness? He used the theme when Professor X comes through on his chair. You could hear it. It goes doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. It's so good. That one's great. I love the theme song for Oz. You should all look it up because it is wild, but also really, really good. And pop Oz to the top of your TV watching if you can, because it's so good. X-Files is a huge one for me. X-Files is sad because it was so formative for me, and then you go back and watch some of it and you're like, ooh. Chris Carter, had great ideas. Not the best follow through on like figuring stuff out. Or like
it's amazing how much optimism I will start an X-Files rewatch with. Like this belief that like this time it's gonna all make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And I know so many people who defend it are like, it's not supposed to, not everything has to be neatly tied up. And I was like, no, everything has to be neatly tied up.
It doesn't have to be.
I want to know.
You want to know, yes, we all want to know. But I don't think he knows. You can leave things out, you can leave things for people to figure out on their own. That's cool, that's awesome. But like, as the creator, you need to know. And I don't believe he knows. Which is fine. He's very like fundamental to my whatever. Great guy. Don't know him.
You know who did know what he was doing? Mark Snow, composer of the theme song.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the like atmospheric music they used in the show was also really, really great. But like, was that show great, or was the chemistry between Duchovny and Anderson why you checked in every single week, right? Very formative for my like romance thinking brain.
And Scully as a character.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
I very much identify with a woman who has to deal with a nonsense man at all times, because I have 4 men in my house. I have 3 boys and my husband, so I'm constantly scullying about, being like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But anyway, so that was 3. I got 2 more. One of my favorite anime theme songs that I still have on a playlist I love so much is based on an anime called Wolf Girl and Black Prince. It was on Netflix for a little bit. It's an older one. You can find, I think, the mangas in our catalog, as well as, I think you can just find the mangas. But the song's called Love Good Time by Special Thanks, and it just never ceases to pump me up. And if you look up this manga and go, Anna, that's a real toxic male character, I say, you leave me to my toxic men. They're not real, and I can enjoy them if I want. And then kind of a more recent one, I really love the opening and ending credits for Jujutsu Kaisen, which is like almost a sorcerer high school show. I think they're on their like 3rd or 4th season now. It's really, really good. But the Kai Kitten and then Lost in Paradise. So those are joint because they're the same show. One's the opening and one's the end credit. And they're like rocky and then like hip hoppy at the end. It's great. So good.
Anime has always done end credits really well too.
Yes. Where you don't want to skip the credits because you just want to keep bopping to the songs.
Yeah,
every time.
Totally.
And they always put like Jujutsu Kaisen has a really great like end credit sequence for animation that really doesn't have a lot to do with the show itself, but it just gives you kind of this extrapolation of the personalities of the characters in a really cool, colorful way, where the show is like really dark. So they're just almost giving you like a palate cleanser, and then let's come back to the next episode and get real spooky again, which is so cool and so smart.
Bryce, I imagine you with some lists, some like cross out, some writing them back in the margins. This probably took some time.
It did. I was working on this last night, had the bulletin board up with like string going across to certain songs. And so I eventually got it figured out. So here's my top 5. And Caroline, I have a feeling at least one of these you're probably going to have on your list. But coming in at number 5 is the theme song from Cheers. So Where Everybody Knows Your Name. It's sung by Judy Hart Angelo and Gary Portnoy. This could also kind of be tied into explains essentially the plot of the series itself anyway. Coming in at number 4, one of my personal favorite all-time comedies. It's Frolic, which is the theme music from Curb Your Enthusiasm. And this is a score done by Luciano Michelini. One of the things, so what I love about this is theme music is that the theme music actually almost has become like a meme. So sometimes, when you see like these fail videos or somebody will fall down or something bad happens to them, basically somebody will plug in the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme to the end of it, and it just wraps it up perfectly. I watched it on YouTube, and somebody in one of the comments for the theme put, and I thought this kind of describes it perfectly: when humanity eventually dies out, this better be the end credits theme for us all. So I thought that was appropriate. Coming in at number 3. This is a show that we talked about a few months ago on the show, Caroline. So the actual song itself is called Having an Average Weekend, and it's the theme music from Kids in the Hall. And the theme is by a group called Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet. Even if you're not a big fan of Kids in the Hall, I know not everybody is, you can't deny this is a really catchy theme song. And at number 2... Anna, you mentioned this song earlier in the episode, and that's Woke Up This Morning, the theme music from The Sopranos. It's by a group called Alabama 3. So I'm still kind of going through a Sopranos rewatch right now. I'm almost near the end, but when I'm watching it, of course, it gives you the option to skip over the opening credits. I never skip over it. This is a song I'll listen to all the time.
And what are the visuals of the theme song to The Sopranos?
We just get shots of New Jersey.
Because
driving. He's driving. I got it.
Yes. Maybe that's why I love it so much. Maybe that's what I need to do is like go on the Henday and throw Woke Up This Morning on. That might be kind of weird.
I think this could be like a series of videos.
I think we need to make him a playlist.
Driving around Edmonton.
And it's just TV theme songs about driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. At number 1, this is the one I think might be on your list, Caroline. My apologies if I stole it from you. It's Maybe Tomorrow, the theme music from The Littlest Hobo. It's by Terry Bush. This is a song that maybe will make you cry because you think of like the, poor dog kind of going on all these adventures and just never settling down. And if something happened to O Canada and we as a nation decided to change our national anthem, I think it'd be appropriate to go with Maybe Tomorrow as our new national anthem.
How did we not talk about like the Hockey Night in Canada theme?
I think it got a little ruined with CBC lost the Hockey Night in Canada theme.
That's true.
Yeah, they tried to jazz it up a bit. But yeah, also another iconic Canadian theme song.
For sure. It's not on my list. I think I've shared on the podcast in the past. I don't really have any musical ability, but if I were going to join, or rather form a band, we would be called the Maybe Tomorrows, and we would sing covers of Canadian TV theme songs. So I have a plan, just not the talent to make it happen. I don't think we had any overlap, Bryce, on my list. I'm just looking.
Wow.
So on my list, the first one I thought of was We Used to Be Friends by the Dandy Warhols, which is the theme to Veronica Mars. Now, this show played around with the theme song every single season. My favorite is season 1. I think that was the strongest. And then they just kept like remixing it. So I had it on my like mid-90s or mid-2000s iPod mini. It wasn't a shuffle. It was the mini, I think.
Nano,
yeah. I had both like the actual like 30-second clip that they used as the theme song, as well as the full length song on there. And next one is a personal genre that I call this song didn't need to go this hard, and it's Nothing's Gonna Stop Me Now from Perfect Strangers. This song, I don't know when the last time you listened to the theme song from Perfect Strangers is, but it is them against the world, huge sweeping orchestration. The song does not need to go that hard. The first season, it has the character of Balky immigrating to America, moving in, making life in a new place. I get it, but it does not need to go that hard. Also on this list, this is how I sneak in more than 5. But also in this genre of did not need to go this hard, the Raccoons, the CBC cartoon show, like Run With Us, like it does not need to go that hard for a song, but you're glad that it does.
Oh, it's so epic.
It really is. And like it's But Perfect Strangers, if you haven't listened to that, I recommend checking in with that. I have loved this, I think because at the time it was out, I associated with like older people, university, college, like coolness, and that is the theme song to A Different World, a show that, because of it being a spin-off to The Cosby Show, not really on the air or available right now, but it's really more of a Debbie Allen project than otherwise, and I hope someday it can be maybe looked at in the context of what the show was. But I mean, you got Aretha Franklin doing the theme song in the middle of the seasons, Boys to Men in the last season of A Different World, just like so cool. Like, to me, that is still what cool is. And then finally, is this explaining the premise? It's Moving On Up, the Jeffersons.
That was on my long list.
Such a good song. Love it so much. And I'm like, is it explaining? And it's like, I mean, yeah, they finally got a piece of the pie, moving on up to an apartment on the east side. It's laying it out for you. I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't mention George and Wheezy, but it doesn't really need to. I will groove to that song anytime it pops into my head. A wonderful segue to our roundtable questions.
Caroline,
yes.
You kind of teased us here, and it was interesting because when you sent me the outline for this episode, like normally we got the questions there. This one's like, I'm nervous. There's like no question. Like you're almost going to quiz us, maybe it sounds like.
Yeah, here's what I put on it. Caroline is going to ask you some yes/no trivia questions about theme songs, and I'm not going to tell you what the questions are ahead of time. I wrote that in there for it.
I've never been more excited for a Monday morning meeting in my life.
Yeah. So here's what we got. I have 3 different rounds of questions. The first one is an actual yes/no format. We will go rapid fire on this with you will answer in the order on my screen, which is Anna, Ashley, Bryce. Okay, we're back to alphabetical here. So this first round of questions, the Alan Thicke round. Did Alan Thicke write or co-write this theme song? First one, yes or no? Different Strokes.
How fast? Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Alan Thicke co-wrote the theme song to Different Strokes. The Facts of Life.
Yes.
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 Yes. Alan Thicke co-wrote the theme song to Facts of Life, which was also a Different Strokes spin-off. The original theme to Wheel of Fortune. Not the one we hear now, but the original Wheel of Fortune.
Yes.
No.
Alan Thicke? No.
Yes.
Oh.
That is, he wrote a whole bunch of game show theme songs in his career. And did Alan Thicke write or co-write this theme song? Growing Pains.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to go with no.
No, he didn't. He is sometimes credited as, but he starred in but did not write the theme song. Okay, next round is the Billboard round. Did this song reach the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100? So top 10. The theme from Hill Street Blues. And we'll go Anna, Ashley, Bryce.
No.
Yes.
Yes, because I feel like this is a trick question.
I don't know what's the trick about it. Yes, it reached the top 10 in 1981.
She did not say it was the theme from Magnum P.I. We should have known that, though.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. The Sound of Philadelphia, which is the theme to Soul Train.
Top 10?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to go yes on this one, too.
Yes, it was a number 1 hit in 1974. All right, one that hasn't come up yet on the show. Hawaii Five-0, the theme to Hawaii Five-0. Top 10 hit. Anna.
No, it reached number 11.
No, I guess.
I don't know if Anna was just throwing us off, but I'm going to go yes.
It reached number 4 in 1969.
My low-key Wikipedia research is not working for me.
You're cheating.
I have just a few more. Welcome Back, Kotter.
Welcome Back, Carter. I'm going to say no. No.
Ashley?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think it did. Yes.
Yes, it was a number one hit, 1976. Okay, next one. Believe it or not, the Greatest American Hero theme song, also known as George Costanza's Answering Machine tune. Anna.
I'm gonna say yes because I want it to have made it. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that it was also like a number one hit.
Close. It was a number 2 in 1981. The original, not the Answering Machine. And last question in this round. How do you talk to an angel by Jamie Walters in The Heights from The Heights?
Just to be different, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I hope not.
I think I was in junior high when that song came out. I hated it. But unfortunately, yes, it was definitely and I think it was actually a number one hit.
It was, I believe, the last TV theme song to reach number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was number 1 in 1992, hit number 1 a few weeks after the show was canceled by Fox. So the song had a longer impact than the show. And last round, It's Called What round. So these are going to be true or false. And these are like general. There's some of them have like details, and it's not like, oh, you said this, but it's really that. No, it's like the concept of it is true or false. Okay, true or false. The theme to The Young and the Restless, Nadia's theme, is named after gymnast Nadia Comaneci.
I mean, she's incredible, so yeah, sure.
True. I'm going to say no because I think probably the theme came before Nadia got big.
Yeah, false.
It is true. The show, the original music, it was from a movie and was released under a different name, but it became so associated with Nadia Comaneci in the lead up to the 1976 Olympics that they re-recorded and re-released the theme song under the name of Nadia's theme.
Oh.
Here we go. True or false? The theme to Taxi is called Angela, after a guest character who appeared on only a few episodes.
I'm going to assume Angela was really good looking.
Yeah.
True.
It is true, but actually, Angela, the thing was that she was so not good looking that they couldn't believe somebody was actually dating her. Yeah, that's
rude.
The thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna look her up right now.
In the third episode, I think it was weight based. Like, I think it was.
That's rude.
In the third episode, so there was a different theme song originally. Then they wrote this music for the character in that episode, and they were like, "We like this better." Okay, the true or false. The theme song to Sanford and Son is called The Street Beater and was composed by Quincy Jones.
Yes. True.
True?
It is true because I have that theme music in my collection at home. So yes.
Yes, Quincy Jones, who also appears in the theme to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which he also co-produced.
He's in the taxi. He drops him off.
And last question, true or false? The thinking music on Jeopardy has a name. It's called Think and was composed by Jeopardy creator Merv Griffin.
True?
I'm going to go with true, too.
I'm going to go false in that I think it has a different name.
It's called Think. It is. It's not the theme music, but the stuff that plays over Final Jeopardy is called Think and is one of the most recognized theme TV songs in the world. So thank you. You were all great sports in playing along with my theme song trivia. I'm going to be honest. This is because I couldn't think of any questions that weren't like, what would your theme song be? So I just mix this up a little bit.
No, that was fantastic.
Yeah, well, and that, I mean, we didn't even really touch on the phenomenon of using existing songs as, the Wonder Years, right? Use
Joe
a little
Cocker.
help from my friend. Yeah, yeah. And so stuff that existed, but then re-associated with different things. There's just so much to talk about with TV theme songs. We really could have been here for much, much longer than we have been.
Yeah, and we should also mention too that a lot of these theme songs that we've talked about today, obviously, like we have here at EPL, we have a ton of TV theme song collections that you can borrow. You go on Hoopla and stream them. We also have physical CDs. There's sheet music if you want to play the theme music from Taxi at home. There's so many different titles in our collection for you to kind of go back and revisit some of these incredible theme songs that we talked about today.
Maybe that's our hook. So we've got you driving around the city. We've got the music playing, but the music is actually like somebody with a keyboard next to you, live music as you're doing it. I'm just throwing this out there.
Portable synthesizer, anyone? A guitar?
In the EPL to go lit van, driving around the city.
We have ukuleles. Oh. We have ukuleles, we have Bluetooth speakers, laptops. What do you need? What do you need? We're here for you, Bryce.
I like this brainstorming. This is good. Thank you both, Ashley and Anna, so much for joining us today. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to let our listeners know about? Anna?
Yes. I mean, I know people know, but people could know more. We over at epl.ca/EPL, the number 2, go. So EPL2 go. You can check out what the Lit Van is, where we are. We have all of our events and classes up on the website. Some of them are registered, some of them are drop-in, so you can just come see what we do. We do a lot of early literacy programming, school visits, after-school programming, mobile makerspace, preschool problem solvers. The list goes on. We even have adult programming happening in the Southwest at a coffee shop at the last Saturday of every month. So we do stuff for everybody. We're bringing library service out into the community, and we would love to see your lovely faces where we park the vans. So you can check us out.
Awesome. And Ashley, is there anything you'd like to mention for our listeners?
We have a new partnership program that's running at EPL at several branches called Music Box, and it's music education for like a preschool age. So I believe it's 2 to 5 years old. And that just started mid-October, but we'll be continuing, I think, till spring. And so you'll want to go on the website to see the times and branches it's running at. And then the other thing is, at the end of November is the Old Strathcona Business Association's Winter White Light Up, which is an event they do where the park that's directly outside of the Strathcona branch, they fill with lights for most of the winter, but they do their light up at the end of November. And we will be doing programming associated with that. I don't know what. I don't think it's been planned at this point, but because we're still more than a month off. But yeah, that should be a good time. They usually have fire pits and stuff set up too, and entertainers, so should be good.
It's great. When the lights in McIntyre Park are just beautiful, and really one of the indications that we're into the winter season at that point.
Yeah, and they started leaving the lights up, at least the ones in the trees, all year, and they have them running even during the summer. But then they've started adding more, like there was a light tunnel last year and a few other things. So
we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so, we encourage you to subscribe so that you get all of our new episodes. Please also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, tell a friend about the show.
Yeah, and don't forget that we'll have a link to everything that we talked about in today's show notes. There was a lot of TV theme music that we mentioned, so we'll do our best to try and link to it. But watch for that list. And if you want to share your favorite TV theme songs or with us or suggest a future episode topic, please email us at podcast@epl.ca or hit us up on Twitter by using the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.